Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Nicole and I make bookish content. It is currently the middle of March and I have 2 videos that I've been needing to edit and schedule, but filming is just so much more fun though. So I've decided to do a long overdue video where I show you guys a bunch of books that I purchased over the past couple of months. I've actually been doing kind of like a book buying ban for myself because my TBR cart is full to the point where I had to start stacking books underneath my super tiny bookshelf. Hopefully next year I'll have a bigger space for all my books and I can continue my book buying addiction. I was really surprised when I was still able to accumulate as many books as I did, and I thought, well, let's do a haul. So if you guys are ready to hear me barely summarize a bunch of books but show them to you guys, then just keep on watching. So the first 4 books that I actually received are from my friend Christine from the Roomies Digest. She's absolutely the sweetest person on earth, and we decided to do a book swap. And so I'm not going to be showing or stating any of the books. You guys will just have to watch my secret video that's coming up hopefully sometime this month. So moving on to the books that I will be talking about. The first book that I got is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pearce, and this is a thriller, very atmospheric, that takes place in an abandoned sanatorium that has been renovated into a 5-star minimalist hotel right up in the Swiss Alps. Ellen Warner goes when her estranged brother and his fiance invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, and she's like, okay, I guess I'll go. But they arrive in a threatening storm and she just feels like something about the hotel is off. The next morning she wakes up and finds out that her brother's fiance has nowhere to be seen, and they start freaking out, and the longer she stays missing, the more the guests that are staying there start to panic. This actually reminded me a lot of One by One by Ruth Ware, and I had read that in either December or January, I believe, and I really liked it. I just felt like this book sounded very similar, and so at first I wasn't sure if I wanted to read The Sanatorium, but I heard a lot of good reviews about it, and I'm sure they have completely different storylines. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this book brings because I like thrillers every now and then. So the next book that I got is called Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. This book is about a family split between 2 countries, the United States and Colombia, and so it follows different family members navigating through life and experiencing different conflict. I just feel like this book will be really enlightening and also very interesting to read about. Yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. Like, I'm unwell. So let's first start off with the books that I picked up at the thrift store. I think it was in January or February, but I actually went to a thrift store with my boyfriend and it was super fun because I started getting really obsessed with fashion TikTok. If you know, you know. I was like, okay, I have a whole new aesthetic now, like I need to go to the store and shop. And then at Goodwill I was like, oh, the book section looks pretty nice, and I found a bunch of books that were really cool or that I had heard about, and I just had to. The first book that I got was The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and it's a hardcover. I've heard a lot about this book. It just sounds really intriguing. And so this is about a young man who finds this life of privilege and intellect he's long coveted. He's drawn into this ultimate inner circle with 5 students who are worldly and self-assured, selected by charismatic classics professor to participate in the search for truth and beauty. And they're basically studying the mysteries of ancient Greek culture and spending long weekends in an old country house. He's super mesmerized by his new friends and he's unaware of the crime which they have committed in his presence. But once becoming close with them, he begins to believe in the necessity of murdering the one classmate and friend who might betray both their secret and their future. This sounds really interesting, definitely thrilling. I am so down for this. It just sounds very dark academia vibes. Definitely when fall comes around, I'll probably be reaching for this one. So the next book that I got is Alex and Eliza by Melissa de la Cruz. So this is the romance of young Alexander Hamilton and Elizabeth Schuyler. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong, but it takes place in 1777, Albany, New York, and American Revolution is going on. It talks about their love story. So as someone who has never watched the Hamilton musical, this would be really interesting to read. I should probably look it up a little bit to get a little bit of backstory about who I'm reading about. I think that this would be a really, really fun read, and I have been wanting to get more into romance, so perfect place to start. The next book that I thrifted is Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. factor. I actually also got this book, Forever and Linger. I found these at 2 different Goodwills. I think I picked up one of them and then I found the other 2 and I was like, well, I have to get them if they're a complete set. So I think this is the first 3 books in the series, which is super nice because it was really inexpensive and I have heard about this. I mean, I think it's like a werewolf teenage angst kind of book. I was a huge Twilight stan, so I could definitely see myself getting into these books. So this is about Grace and Sam. Grace has spent years watching the wolves in the woods behind her house. One yellow-eyed wolf, her wolf, watches back. Eye contact, okay, we see it. He feels deeply familiar to her, but she doesn't know why. Sam has lived 2 lives. As a wolf, he keeps the silent company of the girl he loves. And then for a short time each year, he is human, never daring to talk to Grace until now. Oh snap. This definitely sounds like a really interesting like werewolf romance and I'm here for it. I'm really excited to review this. I think I might film like a vlog on like my thoughts of the series because I really haven't heard this talked about in a really long time. Definitely in the early 2015 I think I heard this talked about, but haven't heard anything since. It'll be interesting to review, but I also just love the design and the colors. It's very appeasing to me. More books! Honestly, it feels really satisfying to get this out because this has just been in bags, kind of like just sitting waiting for the haul. Okay, so the next books that I got were Matched and Crossed. I think these are the first 2 books by Ali Conti. I remember seeing this a lot in the bookstore and always being so intrigued by it. It looked really interesting, but I never got around to reading it because I was always stuck on the same like 10 books. I will go into it with an open mind. I've heard mixed reviews about it. I've heard that it's not super good, but then I've also heard it's like really good. So I guess we'll see. It's also been a while since I've heard about this book series. So this is about a society where officials decide who you love, where you work, and when you die. Ooh. Scythe much? I mean, it's kind of worse than Scythe in my opinion. Cassia has always trusted their choices. It's hardly any price to pay for a long life, the perfect job, the ideal mate. So when her best friend appears on the matching screen, Cassia knows with complete certainty that he is the one until she sees another face flash for an instant before the screen fades to black. Now Cassia is faced with impossible choices between Xander and Kai, between the only life she's known and a path no one else has ever dared follow, between perfection and passion. Dun dun dun! Oh, we love a good dystopian. That sounds so interesting. It almost sounds like a Tinder like. This sounds very juicy, like kind of page turner that I'd be reading while eating hot Cheetos. Seems like a good time to me. The next book that I got I'm really excited about because I hear you guys talk about this series all the time, and I got The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and I've heard so many things about the Percy Jackson series, and I think it's about time I invest some time into reading them. This is a Greek-inspired book series about Percy Jackson, who's a descendant of Poseidon, and I think he goes to a school with half-bloods where they're all basically like half mortal, half god, and it just sounds really interesting. For all of my Percy Jackson fans out there, I'm finally going on board, guys. Wish me luck. The next book that I got is Room by Emma Donoghue, and I've actually heard a lot about this on BookTube. This is actually a contemporary / drama that was also turned into a movie, and it's about this woman who raises her kid in a room. The woman was abducted, and this room is her prison, but she gave birth in it, and so to her kid, the room is like the entire concept of the world. Like, he doesn't have any knowledge of the outside world until they escape, and he has to basically like relearn everything. And I think it's just a slice of life book that talks about their journey and adjusting to life after going through such a traumatic experience. It sounds really interesting. I think it's definitely going to be a tearjerker for me, but I am ready. Finally, the last book that I got at Goodwill is Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. Carve the Mark is about Kyra and Akos, who grew up in enemy countries on a vibrant yet divided planet. Kyra has the ability to transfer extraordinary pain with a simple touch that makes her a dangerous weapon for her tyrannical brother. When Akos is kidnapped and forced to serve Kyra, it's clear that their hatred hatred is mutual. This world has political chaos and tension, and they have to decide if they want to stay on their opposing teams or work together. I don't know, it just sounds really interesting. It's got a really gorgeous cover, okay? It sounds kind of deadly, kind of intense. Your girl's here for it. So now that we're all done with talking about the books that I got from the thrift store, we're going to move on to my book of the month books that I've picked up. So we're just gonna run through them pretty fast. The first book is People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd, and this is about a social media star, I believe, who is stalked by someone. It's kind of like social media gone wrong because it's basically you all over again. Who doesn't love a good thriller that reminds you of all the dangers in the modern day world? The next book that I got is The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. This just looks so cute. This is about Daisy Patel, who's a software engineer who basically does not have any interest in having a boyfriend. Her family is not really happy with that, and to kind of please them, she asks her childhood crush to be her decoy fiance. In the meantime, he's doing his thing when he realizes that his inheritance is dependent on if he ends up getting married. So it's kind of like works both ways for both of them, until of course, you know, you catch feelings and all that stuff. So we're totally here for that kind of romance. It just sounds really wholesome and cute and kind of funny, so I'm excited to read it. So the next book that I got is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've heard so much about this. Also, just love the cover. I have a top that looks very similar to the fabric, so I'm thinking maybe sometime I could do a book covers inspire my outfits, so let me know if you guys would be interested in that, because I think that could be a lot of fun. This is about an aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon named Evelyn Hugo, who's finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life, but when she chooses this unknown magazine reporter, everyone's very surprised and like, who is this? Why? And Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. So she's summoned to Evelyn's luxurious Manhattan apartment, and she listens as Evelyn tells her story. As she begins connecting to the star, it becomes clear that their lives intersect in tragic and irreversible ways. So this sounds like a very good dramatic book. Very glamorous. I'm ready to be taken away, but I've heard really, really good things about it, so we'll have to see. But the next book that I got was Circe by Madeline Miller, and I've heard so many great things about this. This is Greek mythology inspired. Hold up a second. Wait, it says this follow-up to the Song of Achilles, because I actually have not read the book. I'm kind of wondering if this is like a sequel. I thought it was a standalone. This is about Circe, born to Helios, god of the sun. She realizes that she possesses power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Zeus is super threatened, and he banishes her to a deserted island where she hones in on her craft, but there is danger, and she draws the wrath of both men and gods, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. This just sounds really vivid and intense. I love any kind of story that involves Greek mythology. I'm really interested to seeing all my favorite characters that I've learned about and seeing how this story plays out. The next book that I got is Too Good to Be True by Carola Lovering, and this is a domestic thriller, if you can tell by the wedding ring and the dark, ominous background. This is about one love story, two marriages, three versions of the truth. Oh snap, like stuff is about to go down. So this is about Sky Starling, who's super happy when her boyfriend proposes after a whirlwind courtship. Though she's super happy, she's also battling crippling OCD, and her romantic relationships have suffered as a result. But now Burke, who's like handsome and older and mature, he wants her, but he's not who he claims to be, and letters to his therapist reveal the truth. He's married, and he's using Sky for his own deceptive ends. And then 30 years earlier, 17-year-old Heather is determined to end things with Burke, a local bad boy, and make a better life for herself in New York City. But can her adolescent love stay firmly in her past, or will he find his way into her future? So I feel like Heather could be the person that he's married to, and maybe happily marriage isn't as happy as one might think. I think this will be super interesting to read. It sounds so juicy already, and I loved Behind Closed Doors, and I love The Silent Patient, so I'm excited to get my hands on a new good thriller. So the next book that I got from Book of the Month is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is about a woman named Nella who sells well-disguised poisons to use against women's oppressive men in their lives. This sounds like a really interesting plot line, okay? It looks super pretty. It also takes place 200 years later, where this historian named Caroline discovers an aged apothecary vial in the river, and she's dealing with her husband's recent betrayal. She's super interested to investigating, and she realizes that there could be a correlation between the vials and the apothecary murders that have never been solved, and it says that there's a twist. I'm ready. The next book that I got is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and I just recently read one of her books for the first time, and it was so good. I'm really excited to be jumping on the Kristen Hanna train. I definitely want to read every single book on her backlist now though, because The Nightingale was just that good. This is about Texas 1921, a time of abundance. The Great War is over, the bounty of the land is plentiful, and America is on the brink of a new and optimistic era. But for Elsa Wolcott, deemed too old to marry in a time when marriage was a woman's only option, the future seems bleak. Until the night she meets Raffaele Martinelli and decides to change the direction of her life. With her reputation in ruins, there is only one respectable choice: marriage to a man she barely knows. By 1934, the world has changed. Millions are out of work, and drought has devastated the Great Plains. Everything on the Martinelli farm is dying, including Elsa's tenuous marriage. Each day is a desperate battle against nature and a fight to keep her children alive. In this uncertain and perilous time, Elsa, like so many of her neighbors, must make an agonizing choice: fight for the land she loves or leave it behind and go west to California in search of a better life for her family. It already sounds so good, you guys. You can tell I'm about to be moved by this book because Kristen Hanna's books do something crazy to me. I don't know. The next book that I got was part of my Fairy Loot, and it is Lore by Alexandra Bracken, but this is about a world where 9 of the Greek gods tried to rebel against Zeus, and as punishment, they're forced to walk for 7 days every 7 years as mortals, and all the descendants of heroes such as Hercules and Perseus get to try and hunt them down, and if they kill them, they take over on their godlike form, and this revolves around Lore, who had a very traumatic past and just kind of trying to escape that whole process until someone shows up that she didn't expect to be alive, and her world comes crashing down and she has to kind of jump back in and make things right. I rated this book a really good rating, and I have a lot of positive thoughts about it. The next book that I got is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is so beautiful, guys. Can we just take a moment? It's literally carved. But anywho, These Violent Delights is a East Asian retelling of Romeo and Juliet. Takes place in Shanghai during the 1920s, and there's basically the White Flowers and the Scarlets, and these are gangs who are dividing up Shanghai. This is about Juliet Kai and Roma Montagov and their kind of timely past as their families hate each other. There's also a monster involved that seems to be causing people to rip out their throats and viciously kill themselves. I'm currently reading it right now, and I have a lot of thoughts about it for sure, but I'm actually buddy reading this with Christine, so it's a fun time. So the next book that I got is This Golden Flame by Emily Victoria, and I think I received this in my either Fairy Loot or Owl Crate. So this is about a girl named Karis who is orphaned and forced to serve her country's ruling group of scribes. She wants to find her brother who was shipped away, but family bonds don't matter in the scriptorium, where the sole focus is unlocking the magic of an ancient automaton army. In her search for her brother, Karis does the seemingly impossible. She awakens a hidden automaton, intelligent with a conscience of his own. Oh my gosh. This reminds me of Choppy. Alex has no idea why he was made or why his father, their nation's greatest traitor, once tried to destroy the automaton. Suddenly, the scriptorium isn't just trying to control Karis, it's hunting her. Together with Alex, Karis must find her brother and a secret that's held her country in its power for centuries. This sounds like such a good dystopian book. I've been really digging this dystopian feel recently ever since I read Scythe. I'm ready to get hurt by a robot. So the next book that I got is Shatter Me by Taher A. Mafi. I'm doing a buddy read with my friend Lucia, and she actually read it, so I'm really sorry that I've been reading so slowly. I make these super unrealistic TBRs and I can never finish them, but I'm promising you I'm determined to read it soon. I'm going to make it a priority, I swear. But this is about a girl named Juliet not, and basically when she touches someone, she kills someone, so that's pretty much the most important thing. The reestablishment, whatever that is, has plans for her and wants to use her as a weapon because of her ability, but she does not want to do that. She wants to be free, and she's finally figuring out how to fight back and to find a future with the one boy she thought she'd lost forever. This sounds really interesting. Another dystopian, thrilling book that has like powers. Oh, I am there, and she said it was really good and super binge worthy, so we love a great heroine. The next book that I purchased, I was actually at a local bookstore in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I had been there before, but only for a couple days, and I didn't get a chance to really explore the downtown, and I honestly fell in love with it. It was super cute and quaint, and all the stores were boutiques and super cute, and all the restaurants and breweries just looked super nice. But I went into this local bookstore and I wanted to support them and buy something, so I did a poll because I've heard so many things about Frederick Bachman, and I know that he's written like a ton of amazing books, but I only wanted to buy one, and so I did a poll on Instagram and was like, what should I buy? Help as soon as possible. And Mary Reads, who I love, like, she responded right away and she was like, Anxious People. Second choice is Beartown, but I just was in the mood for a paperback, and so I picked up Beartown. This is about a small town called Beartown that has this old ice rink, and this junior ice hockey team is about to compete in the national semifinals, and they actually are super good. Everything's doing well until a violent act occurs that will leave a young girl traumatized and a town in turmoil. This is a story about a town in a game, but even more about loyalty, commitment, and the responsibilities of friendship. The people we disappoint even though we love them, and the decisions we make every day that come to define us. In this story of a small forest town, Frederick Bachman has found the entire world. That sounds so good. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to read this. I've honestly heard nothing but good things about it, so yeah. And finally, we've made it to the end, guys. The last book that I've received was actually gifted to me by my wonderful best friend, Michaela, and she bought me Red Rising by Pierce Brown. We're both super board game nerds, and I guess our favorite board game company is making a board game version of this book because it was so popular, and so I suggested doing a buddy read, and she went out and bought us matching hardback copies, and she even wrote a cute little note. So I love you. Thank you so much for buying me this. So this is a dystopian kind of alternate universe world where Darrow is a red who's a member of the lowest caste in a color-coded society of the future. He works all day trying to believe that him and his people are making Mars more livable for future generations until he realizes that Mars has been livable and is actually thriving. Generations ago, he's been unknowingly an actual slave to the decadent ruling class. He's upset and inspired to have justice, and he basically sacrifices everything to infiltrate the ranks and bring down his enemies and fight for justice, because that's screwed up. So it sounds really, really good. I really don't think that I'm going to have anything bad to say about it. All of my friends on BookTube, I feel like, loved this book, and I can already tell it's going to be very moving. This is something I'm really looking forward to reading, hopefully in April, if not May. Whew, that was a mouthful. I'm now going to drink a huge glass of water. Thank you guys so much if you guys have made it this far. I would love to hear in the comments down below if you guys have read any of the books that I purchased, and if so, tell me what your thoughts are, because I would love to hear about what you liked or disliked about it. Join the Discord if you can, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!